My name is Geoff.
My name is Ron.
And together we are the most mediocre podcasters alive. Welcome to a very special Flash-centric episode of The Will Be Extras. I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron.
And I'm just giving you full warning. We are going to be going into full detail and spoilers for everything that has happened in The Flash, up to and including the Season 2 finale. So with that, you have definitely been warned. So, what did you think overall of The Flash Season 2 and its finale?
I feel like I lost IQ points watching it.
I have so much to say about this episode.
I know. It could really be its own podcast all to itself. No, here's the problem that I had. We had the Kevin Smith episode of him being trapped in the Speed Force.
Brilliant. Loved it.
Absolute. That time travel and shit is your crack. That episode is Ron crack. That sounds really bad. But then the following episode was fantastic. And then this one felt like a filler episode that should have been in the middle of the season.
And not a particularly good one.
And not a particularly good one either. Basically, the Zoom plotline technically ended when he finally got Barry's power. And then after that, he just kind of like Cell in Dragon Ball Z when he finally becomes perfect and starts the Cell games. Like, there's nothing else for him to do. He's reached his pinnacle, so let's have a race, Barry.
That episode where they're chilling in Star Labs with him, and they
pissed me off.
They get Wally back.
Yeah.
They know he's a serial killer.
Yeah.
He could have killed them all and the entire city in about 10 seconds.
The moment he stepped away from Wally or Wally stepped away from him, I just fucking charged him.
And they just showed that the Flash could kind of take him.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
It was so stupid.
That
was the first. I was already down on the season. They had moments of greatness.
Yeah.
I was already when they started, and I actually talked about it on a previous podcast. I think before you had gotten Cup, I told you it was like they even have plot holes. That episode was a gigantic plot hole.
Yeah,
it was so frustrating to watch.
That episode, I had such a headache for all the times I facepalmed during that episode, dude. It was ridiculous. And then for them to explain his plan in the finale. Which, number one, it's amazing how complex that plan is, and everybody just figured it out in like 5 seconds of thought. Like, the logic leaps weren't probably as bad as Batman 66, but it was just amazing how nail on the head every time someone takes a guess at something in a 5-second, 10-second span. But it really upset me that the culmination of the entire season ends in the race of the century.
It ends in a Mario Kart level.
Yeah, basically Rainbow Road is what it ends in. And not only that, they explain that the race is going to power the destruction of all Earths except for this one. And Barry's reaction is, well, gotta race them. Like, are you fucking serious?
Barry is a complete moron in almost the entire episode.
Yeah, And that's what I was talking about when we were talking about Legends avoiding most of that. Because most of the time, the only time we'd really seen Barry be that dumb was in the Supergirl crossover when he shot the living lightning person with lightning and was shocked when it powered her up. And he's the scientist. Like, this topped that.
Okay, I actually want to bring up... Okay, first of all, we start off this episode, the finale, with the idea... Which I thought was actually kind of interesting in how they realize Barry's out of control and not in the right mind space, so we need to basically protect him from himself.
Yes.
That should have been an entire episode.
Yes, it should have.
You know how Walking Dead has all those bullshit 90-minute finales and openings that were just completely pointless and were only there to make ad revenue money?
Yes.
If anything needed an extra 30 minutes, it was this. Because I feel like this finale had 2 or 3 episodes worth of content
mushed into
one. And why? You have a 23 or 22 episode order. Remove 2 of your 15 filler episodes and have an ongoing plot line at the end of the season to wrap it up. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the last 2 episodes could have been a movie.
Dude.
Legends of Tomorrow, the last 2 episodes could have been a movie.
Yeah.
Why are you feeling the need to cram shit?
I don't know.
It's stupid.
It was ridiculous.
It was painful.
Complete waste of their resources and their time. And for it to... Okay, here's the thing. It's bad enough. It's even worse when your season 1 villain was also a speedster.
Who was set up as a mentor who betrayed them.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was just utter bullshit, to be honest.
Okay, I want to backtrack a little bit. I didn't have as big of an issue. A lot of people did, and I don't fault them for it, but with the idea of the mentor being the twist villain,
Yeah.
because they had the Jake Garrick thing along with it, that made it a little bit easier to swallow for me. I didn't have as big of a problem with it.
I did like the concept of... He said that it just got so boring and tiring being the villain all the time that he liked to pretend to be the hero and watch people as he gives them hope and then takes it away. That's why his costume looks like the Flash and all that. I actually thought that was a really cool concept. And that part was executed surprisingly well for how poor other things were executed.
Shout out to the actor. I thought Teddy Sears was awesome the whole season.
Oh, yeah.
He had to do the duality between being a lovable Jake Garrick and a serial killer, and
you know what else I actually really liked that they did do right? Because I mean, this season had a lot of faults, but it had some really cool stuff.
It was
too.
Up and down. But they did have good moments. Yeah.
Any moment after Jay Garrick, quote unquote, Jay Garrick is revealed to be Zolomon/Zoom, and that he's with Barry on screen, it felt like watching a dialogue between Batman and Joker, kind of. Maybe not that complex, but the look in Teddy Sears' eyes and the way he delivered his lines along with the creepy music and just the dialogue they would have back and forth was actually kind of gripping, and it just how off his rocker you realize he is in those scenes. Remember that scene when Flash zips up to what did Kevin Smith say? They call it swooping or something. When he just swoops into his office at the police station, and Teddy Sears is in there looking at the pictures of the crime scene of his mom's death and stuff, and they have that dialogue while Black Canary's out collapsing buildings and she collapses one next to them. That whole scene, I could have watched an episode full of that scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just dialogue between the two of them.
It sounds like we've hated this entire season, and the reason we're so passionate about it is because of how much untapped potential this season had, because it's a fucking Flash. Season 1 was
if it weren't for the first season, how good that was, and then when they had any good moment in season 2, it was a fucking good moment, just like season 1. But the problem is, when they had a bad moment, it was Arrow bad.
It sucked. I don't know if it was quite that bad, but it was in the ballpark.
That finale was Arrow.
The finale was Arrow level disappointment. I want to talk about too. When they all turn on Barry and they lock him up. First of all,
when you said in our Legends conversation that you love being able to turn a trope on its head, when they all went along with him, I was like, what the fuck? And then they shot him with a tranq dart and threw him in the cage. I would give them that one in the finale. I would give them that one, because I did not see that coming. That episode was pissing me off so much. I was like, oh, of course they're going to go along with him. Why wouldn't they?
That should have been an episode.
Yes.
It really should have. I like that idea.
What a character moment it could have been if he's locked in that cage for an entire episode.
And they should have done that.
Because Grant Gustin's a fantastic actor. He could have worked with that.
They should really, all they had to do was take out one filler episode and make this 2 episodes, and I think we wouldn't have nearly as many problems with it as we do. When you have multiple scenes of characters having to talk to each other to explain all of their motivations, you need to reevaluate what you're doing.
Yes.
Because you're totally okay with them turning on Barry because it made sense. Later on, when Joe is on Earth 2, and Iris is just like, well, we agreed. I guess I can't go save my dad.
Yeah.
What? And fucking The only people in the episode who isn't for one moment an idiot is Wally.
I know.
Wally the whole time. I'm like, thank you, Wally. Someone here isn't being an idiot. Like,
right? Of all people.
Then, dude, they've done the whole season about after they figure out all the Zoom reveal shit. They're like, man, we can't just let Zoom run free. We have to save Earth 2 too, because that's a whole other world. That's why Barry says that multiple times. You're like, well, I can't go save my dad because we made a deal, and fuck all of Earth 2.
Yeah, that's another thing. They made such a point, throughout the season of, we closed everything, we saved our world, and then like, well, we just sealed him into Earth 2. There's no one there to stop him. So we need to go back. And that was the whole reason they went back. And then their big plan to fix it without Barry, and they were proud of it, was to lock him back in Earth 2.
To be pissed and murder the whole planet. He can murder the whole planet in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, come on, guys. What the serious fuck? And then Iris being so willy-nilly, like, man, we agreed, so no one can go save Joe. What the fuck are you thinking?
That whole episode did the Iris actress a complete disservice.
After the Kevin Smith episode had done her such a big service.
I know, because that actress, I really like that actress, and I actually really like that character, and she was Laurel in that fucking episode.
We need to quickly say, too, we've talked a couple times in specific instances, like with Teddy Sears, I have zero issue with any of the acting in the entire season.
Yes, this was pure writing.
Pure writing and some instances of directing. When they're doing the plan without Barry, why does Wells do a Chuck Norris move, shooting him through the portal? Did that not seem really corny to you?
Yeah, when he did the running jump for no reason.
He does like Arnold in a 1985 action movie move. That was completely lame.
Completely unnecessary.
That should be an epic moment that was ruined by that choice of action scene.
Yeah.
They had the other trope of, like, they're all so smart and the fucking gun jams.
Yeah.
That was lame. They should have just had, it's the fucking Flash. If you can just say, this is all you have to say, and it also makes Joe more of a badass, too. Just say, okay, this trank is so potent because it has to be potent enough to stop Zoom. It has to be administered point blank.
Yes.
You can't shoot it and it still be effective. Done. Then you don't have to have that bullshit of the fucking gun jamming.
Yeah.
And then Joe has to be a badass. He's like, I'll do it. I'll go do it,
Yeah.
And then him actually getting sent through the portal is like a character moment where he's like, I'll fucking do it. I'll go take him on point blank. No, he gets accidentally tripped up because the gun jammed. Fuck you. That was so lame.
Yeah, that pissed me off. Also, I don't even have words.
The amount of times that I was sitting there, which first of all, the setup for this, I actually watched this live like a caveman, having to sit through 7 Supergirl commercials, which you talked about on the podcast. And then I was literally frustrated, I think, the entire episode, outside of like 2 instances.
See, where you were frustrated, I was just like, oh, God, I was just rubbing my forehead.
You were face palming. I was frustrated. I was annoyed.
Because like we said, when the show is good, it's so good. It makes no sense. What I was saying about the Iris actress, though, when it did her a disservice, I don't even know where to fucking begin with after the Kevin Smith episode when, it's all in the Speed Force and the Speed Force takes her form and stuff. How awesome that was for her. Dude, in season 1, when, like, how they did, like, Laurel and Arrow all the time? Like, she started out as, like, damsel in distress most of the time, and she did really stupid shit in those moments. She pulls out a fucking gun and starts trying to take people down, and then ends up just having to run and jump out of the building, and the Flash has to run up and catch her. She was a badass even before she knew that Barry was the Flash or was even on Team Flash. Then to have her like, well, sure, I'm gonna miss my dad, and then later when they're sitting on the stairs outside the house, and they just have this conversation about how Barry's always been in love with her, but, just going to have to wait. And she's like, yeah, I probably should. And stuff. After that dialogue that she had just delivered, it completely contradicted that entire monologue she had.
And also,
2 seconds before.
I know they feel the need to have it because it's on the CW.
Right.
But I hope the CW will eventually realize a good portion of the people watching this shit is not the CW crowd. It is the DC Comics crowd.
Yes.
Which you don't need to have, like on Legends. We didn't need to have that romantic subplot.
No.
We don't honestly need to have the Iris and Barry thing slammed down your throat so bad.
That shit has to be the network, right?
It is the network.
I mean,
they
it has to
basically
be.
mandate you. The only show that has been able to get away with it because the two character leads are men and brothers is Supernatural. They have zero romantic interest in it. They occasionally, over the 11 seasons they've done the show, they have had, I think, like 2 romantic interests the entire time. That's like, for whatever reason, everyone else is mandated but them. It's so weird. Like, I hope they eventually realize that it's not the case, that they need to have that. My 2 favorite moments of the episode were probably Cisco lines.
Yes.
I really love after they turn on Barry, and he's like, Barry's like, man, Cisco, like, what the fuck? He's just like, man, I'm gonna be honest, I was 60-40. I was like,
and Wells like, Ramon. And then he's like, yeah, I voted. I loved that. And I loved when, Ramon, have you ever worked with a tool before? I'm working with one now.
And then if you want to touch about stuff that was done well, the send-off, quote-unquote, for Wells was done really well. Because I loved the scene where he's like, I came to this earth and I'm leaving it a better man because of you. He says that to Barry. Yeah. Great dialogue. He calls Cisco for the first time by his first name as he's leaving. That was beautiful.
Yeah. Like, I loved Cisco's line also. I'm occasionally going to like pop in and just throw stuff around your office.
Yeah, that was gold too. And it's just like it was like basically this finale was a microcosm of the entire season. It was up and down, and moments of greatness got ruined by moments of stupidity.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned it briefly. I want to go into more detail about it. Why? For me, the idea of it coming down to a race and how Zoom felt the need to trick them into making him think it was just a race, that was out of character for me. Because for me, the character has been displayed and portrayed as basically being so cocky he knows he's the best.
Right.
What should have been done is him just straight up tell him, I'm using this to power up a thing that's going to blow up the other universes.
And you're going to help me, and there's nothing you can do.
You can try and stop me. Come and try. I know I'm going to beat you. So I'll tell you where I'm going to be at and when I'm going to do it. You try and stop me, and then we'll see who's the fastest.
You know the biggest problem I had at the race, other than it was just fucking stupid? Why does he need Flash? Why can't he just run in it until it powers up?
Especially when he not only has his own powers, but Barry's in addition to it.
If it's a time thing, like he has to power it up within X amount of time, he can do a time remnant. Why does he fucking need Barry?
He could do multiple time remnants.
Yeah. Why does he need Barry? Why does it have to be? I mean, yeah, I get he's cocky and likes to show off and everything, but why would he leave himself vulnerable for his plan to fail when he doesn't even need Barry to start up the machine? Why not make it apparent what he's doing after he started up the machine and there's no stopping it?
It was just completely out of left field. There was a lot of plot holes in the season finale.
And you know what I'm kind of getting tired of? I get why they do it, because the character's ultimate power boils down to being able to run. But I'm getting tired of him being able to fix every problem by running in a circle around whatever object. I love that my tweet was actually kind of accurate, because technically the Flash did die.
That's actually a good segue. I've talked multiple times about, and the episode clearly to me cemented the fact that they were making the shit up as they went along.
Yeah.
Because what this finale was, first of all, it should have been 2 episodes. We've established that. And then it was just like, oh shit, we're right in the finale. Let's start throwing comic references at the screen. The moment where they do the Crisis on Infinite Earths things, I'm pretty sure we talked about it before, where he runs himself to death.
Yes.
Is one of the most iconic moments in DC Comics history. Barry Allen, when he ran himself to death, was dead as a character from 1985 till 2011.
I didn't know it was that long.
Wally West became the Flash after that moment, and was the Flash. Wally West is my Flash because of that time, that moment.
Right.
Wally West has been the Flash almost as long in total time in the comics, years wise, as Barry Allen. They boiled that into a fucking joke, dude.
Yeah.
I felt so disrespected as a fan of their source material, because it literally got turned into a joke between Wally and Joe.
Yeah.
That is like the most iconic Flash moment. He sacrifices himself. That is such like by running. It is such a brilliant idea.
And it's weird that it got boiled down to a joke either way, because Time Remnant or not, it was still fucking Barry. That was a choice that thing made. It's not like it was a mirror image that he had control of. It was as if Barry himself was sacrificing himself, because he was.
And that moment should not have been... That moment... and I'm actually going to, in a few minutes, once you get all the details out of the way, I'm going to actually throw you my pitch for basically how I personally might rearrange the last few episodes and make it work more organically. I'm going to go into that later.
Okay.
But that moment should not have been reserved for anything that could have been misconstrued as a joke or not taking as seriously as it should have been. That is the most iconic moment of The Flash, period. And then for it to be turned into that type of storyline, and then basically a throwaway storyline, which that Barry died, but it was a cop-out because that Barry died, but it has no effect on the show at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck them for that. That's just like I was saying. They started throwing comic references at the screen. You know what it felt like? Fucking Batman v Superman.
Yeah,
they started throwing shit at the screen, and it's like, oh, it's a reference to the comics, so the comic readers will eat that shit up. No, fuck you. You disrespected the source material.
Yeah.
Yeah, that pissed me off, dude.
I can tell.
And The Flash isn't even my boy.
Yeah.
I'm a Batman fan, so if I'm that pissed off, if your favorite character is The Flash...
Well, again, if, like, Season 1 hadn't been done as well as it was, and all the high points been as high as they were in Season 2, you could basically just be like, well, I mean, it's The Flash, it's CW, what do you expect? But no, Flash, Season 1 has raised those stakes.
Flash Season 1, I couldn't tell you a single plot hole in the entire season. It felt meticulous.
And if you thought of one... it usually wasn't that glaring of a plot hole. It usually didn't affect the story that much.
There weren't out of character moments like we had in the finale, especially, and throughout the season occasionally.
You know what I think a lot of the problem was, because you were talking about how it felt like they made it up as they went along. I think part of the problem was we probably don't know how long they had worked on the concept for Season 1.
Exactly.
And then had to crank out a second season.
It's actually exactly what happened to True Detective. The first season of True Detective was meticulously planned out by the writer and showrunner guy. And then it was a huge success. And they made him crank out Season 2 in like a fourth of the time. And imagine that, it wasn't as good.
Yeah.
It's exactly what happened to Flash. In addition to that, they added an additional show and had to divvy up the Family Guy syndrome. You can only divvy up your talent so much before you end up having...
no talent.
No talent. Good point. Yeah, it's like... And then let's talk about... I was incredibly pissed off. First of all, you gave me a little bit of kudos for kind of figuring out the Man in the Iron Mask.
Yeah.
I was happy I was right. That had no effect on the show at all. What are you doing? Oh, I was so pissed.
Yeah.
I was so pissed. I'm actually going to detail in my pitch in a little bit that I'm going to give to you, too, about how this all could have been, in my mind, made better.
What I was hoping was the real Jay Garrick and Barry Allen versus Zoom.
And that's actually part of my thing I'm going to get into in a little bit.
That's what I was hoping for when I had, figured out who it was in the mask.
I'll go into it now.
Okay.
First of all, did you have anything you wanted to say about the Man in the Iron Mask reveal other than the fact that it was completely pointless for the episode?
It's completely pointless because they had ruled out all the other characters up to that point.
I will say, I liked the idea. It was a bit of a cop-out, but I kind of liked it because it was set up. Barry using the time wraiths against Zoom was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see that coming. That was pretty clever, and it was set up before. But I want to go into basically my pitch on how I take the last 4 or 5 episodes and then rearrange basically all the same shit in a different order.
Oh, yeah?
Outside of... Because after this, we'll get into the very ending of what actually happened. Okay, hypothetically speaking, let's say we go back 4 or 5 episodes. Barry never loses his powers.
Thank God.
In that moment, when they stick him in the machine, he gets his powers back. He doesn't go into the Speed Force yet. He gets his powers back. He doesn't get disintegrated into the Speed Force, and Jesse and Wally still get zapped in the exact same way. Basically, the whole thing happened except for he didn't get zapped into the Speed Force. He got his powers back, okay?
Okay.
Fast forward to the finale. When they are setting up the race type thing with Zoom after they figured out his plan, they actually remember, oh shit, Zoom has that prisoner on Earth 2, and we've established that Cisco can go to Earth 2 because he can open up the portals. They simultaneously set up while Zoom is distracted. While Barry and Zoom are having the race type thing in the machine, they send off Wells and Cisco on a rescue mission to get the Man in the Iron Mask back, just to save him. Because for once, they actually think of saving someone from Earth 2 and actually care.
Right.
Let's imagine that.
Instead of just fuck Earth 2.
Cisco and Wells go to Earth 2 in like this little subplot where they're switching back and forth. Cisco and Wells in the finale go in, open up the cage, and then it's the reveal of the Man in the Iron Mask. You don't see it yet, but you just see Wells and Cisco like look at each other like, holy shit. The reveal of the Man in the Iron Mask is you remove the remnant idea of Barry, and the reveal of who the Man in the Iron Mask is with Cisco and Wells coming back with Jay Garrick, and Jay Garrick helps the Flash beat Zoom. And you, instead of the remnant being the person who has to reverse the thing and kill himself, Barry does. Actual Barry, only Barry in the show. And that's the moment they think he's dead, but he's actually just within the Speed Force. You actually have an impact on the show because of that iconic moment. Everyone else actually on the show, because of the Crisis on Infinite Earths moment of him running himself to death, is so much more impactful if they actually think he's dead and they actually care. Because no one cared that he did it.
Yeah.
At that moment, they all think he's dead. You can still do the time wraith thing, where the time wraiths actually kill Zoom while Garrick is maybe fighting Zoom. They all think Barry's dead because he sacrificed himself in that moment. So what you have left, and the other thing, the shockwave of Barry generating that much Speed Force sends out a pulse and activates the powers within Wally and Jesse.
Okay.
So at that moment, they get speedster powers, but they can't really control it. Do you remember the way Quicksilver looked in the Avengers? How he sometimes was like twitchy a little bit?
Yeah.
Maybe do them like that, where Wally and Jesse can't really control it. So at that moment, they all think Barry is dead. What you have on Earth 1 is Jay Garrick with Wally and Jesse. And Jay Garrick basically is like, these two speedsters need training. And I feel like I owe a debt to these guys because he just sacrificed himself just to help me, get out of my cage on Earth 2. So I'm going to pay respects to Barry Allen and the Flash on Earth 1. I'm going to make sure Earth 1 still gets a Flash. I'm going to train Wally West. He trains Wally. So the setup for the beginning of season 3 is Barry. They all think Barry's dead, and Jay Garrick, who actually tied into the finale plot line by getting to help Barry defeat Zoom, is now going to be basically for the beginning portion of season 3 training Wally West to be the Flash of Earth 1 and Jesse Quick to be the Flash of Earth 2. And then after he feels done training them, he can go back to Earth 3. So Earth 1, 2, and 3 each will have their own Flash. And all of them paid in respects to Barry. And then the very moment, like this is established, he's basically Jay Garrick, that John Wesley Shipp, he's established he's going to train them at the beginning of the next season. That's the one of the focal points for the beginning of the next season. And then you get to actually have the comic storyline. Barry Allen sacrificed himself, and for right now, the Flash is going to be Wally West of Earth 1. And the very end teaser is Cisco back at Star Labs. They all think Barry's dead. You don't see Barry in the Speed Force yet. Cisco is walking around after everyone else has kind of left, maybe like go out to eat or something, like they've left to go do something, and it's just Cisco. Cisco is walking around Star Labs, and he walks past the bed that they use for their medical stuff, the one that Barry was in the coma for all that time before you really got to meet him. And the very last moment you see is Cisco getting the vibe that Barry's still alive in the Speed Force. They cut back to basically show Cisco's reaction of like, holy shit, credits.
But then we don't get that awesome Kevin Smith episode.
No. The Kevin Smith episode is the first episode of season 3 of Barry in the Speed Force, and they establish with Cisco, we have to get him back. So the A plot and B plot of at least the first half of season 3 is Jay Garrick actually having a purpose and training Wally West and Jesse to control their speed powers, while they're also figuring out how to get Barry back.
I like it, but what I would like better, I think, is what you said. But you know how we talked about how the Kevin Smith one could have been a good candidate for a finale? Do the Game of Thrones thing where all the shit happens in the second to last episode, and then have the Kevin Smith one as the fallout of it to round out the season. You know,
Well, if you're doing it by their formula.
yeah, if you were doing that formula, I don't know. I don't know which I would like better.
I just really was upset about how Jay Garrick, Wally West, and Jesse Quick ended up serving no purpose really in the show.
The Jay Garrick thing was basically just more fan service.
The Jay Garrick thing. Okay, first of all,
It was completely inconsequential.
It was completely inconsequential, and it sucks because I really liked the idea because like we talked about it earlier on the regular news podcast. How people were I don't think it got on mic. We were talking about it in between before setting recording. How people were pissed off or actually expecting John Wesley Shipp when he was cast. He wasn't announced as Henry Allen. People were like, "Oh, that'd be awesome. He'll be Jay Garrick."
Yeah.
I actually thought it was genius in how he ended up getting to be Henry Allen and Jay Garrick. The idea of Jay Garrick being played by John Wesley Shipp in the Iron Mask is a cool idea, but making it inconsequential was incredibly lame.
Especially for how many times you saw him and how big of a deal it was in that episode on Earth 2 and everything else.
They never even really talked about the tapping.
Yeah.
We never really got an explanation for that. But you get what I'm saying. Like, my idea at least gives purposes for 3 of the speedsters.
It's a fuck a lot better than
what we got.
What they actually did, yeah.
It's just stuff like that. It's just like if you guys had just taken.
It was like they just clocked in, wrote something, and clocked out and went home. You know,
if like season 1 felt meticulously planned, like there was always
season
an end
1
game.
felt like it was written by fans. Season 2 was literally they just clocked in, did a job, and clocked out. Is what it felt like.
Yeah, it felt like there was no plan. It felt like they maybe within the writers' room there wasn't a consistent vision. Like half the writers wanted to do this, half the writers had a different agenda and idea what to do with it. It was, and it's just like if you had just taken a step back and like really looked at it, and then like I don't think it's too much to ask of them, especially after all the good shit they've shown with season 1, to realize how many cop-outs are in that finale.
You know what pisses me off more than anything about that finale? We are set up now to have, more than likely, another speedster villain.
Well, let's talk about it now. Now that we've kind of gotten the Man in the Iron Mask thing and like my ideas out of the way and shit like that, let's talk about Flashpoint.
Okay, so here is what I feel like probably another cop-out, because we had his dad killed in a few episodes before. So he saved his mom in complete Flashpoint Paradox style, and we saw the version of him that elected not to in season 1 fade out of existence. And now, if they follow Flashpoint, he's going to lose his powers again because the events that led up to him becoming the Flash he
never becomes a CSI, and he's never in that building.
And he's never in that building when it happens, so he doesn't have his powers anymore. And then his dad should be back alive, because if he wasn't the Flash, then he wouldn't have been at the black hole, and Zoom never would have seen that there was another Earth to conquer and all that. So none of that would have happened. So we know that Shipp is coming back, right? So that most likely he's Henry Allen. I don't know. It's just the problem is in Flashpoint you have 2 speedsters. Is it in the original you have Zoom, and in the movie it was Reverse Flash?
I think it was still
or Zolomon is Reverse Flash technically, right?
No, Eobard Thawne. Thawne is always Reverse Flash, and then Zoom is always Hunter Zolomon. I think it was in the comic it was still Reverse Flash. I don't think they changed it for the movie. I could be wrong. I can't remember.
Here's my problem. Jay Garrick wasn't taken out or killed. He's most likely Black Flash. He kind of looks like undead zombie Reverse Flash in a black suit.
They also never gave a proper explanation, or at least let you know that you're going to get it later, of the darkness in him.
Yeah.
They made a point where like
that darkness came out when they grabbed him and drug him off.
Because like they were thinking like the voice was from the mask. No, it was from that thing possessing him, and like it should have been established that that's going to be explained later.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't. To me, I was confused. I was honestly confused.
I swear to God, I'm going to be so pissed if the second speedster for the Flashpoint Paradox stuff is Black Flash, because that's just more Zoom now.
And we've talked multiple times, like, if they have got to quit using... They have so many cool villains at their disposal that they haven't used yet, and for them to just continuously picking a villain whose thing is he runs faster than Barry,
Yeah.
is getting so old.
I know. It really is. But here's the thing. If they're doing Flashpoint Paradox now, would it not just be a rehash of seasons 1 and 2 just jumbled together?
And if you were going to do Flashpoint Paradox anytime soon, why the fuck didn't you do it at the end of season 1?
Seriously.
When it was perfectly set up
It was set up. It was like they wanted to tease it, and then later they're like, we should have done that. Let's do it now.
Yeah, it's crazy. It was so poorly planned.
Yeah, I'm not happy about the Flashpoint setup. I probably would have been more happy if they'd set it up at the end of season 1.
I totally agree. We would have no argument.
But I don't know how you could do it without having another speedster villain, because that was so integral to Flashpoint Paradox.
The biggest thing that's depressing is the Flashpoint Paradox is, if it's not our favorite, it's in our top 2 or 3 favorite of the animated movies, which are also good. We should be ecstatic right now.
Exactly. That's the real crime here.
But we're bummed out. It's so terrible.
And you could have done it because you have analogs for everyone. They got their Batman analog in Arrow. They have all kinds of crazy shit they could do with the characters that were involved with Flashpoint with the ones that they have now. But you mash season 1 and 2 together, and that's basically Flashpoint. There's no need. And then how incredibly dumb the stuff is that Barry does when he goes back in time willy-nilly.
Let's talk about how just much of a... He's a selfish idiot at the end of that episode. It is so out of character. What pisses me off, too, about why Flashpoint should have been season 2 is because what really pisses me off is when you have backwards character development.
Yeah.
Barry, if this was going to be the idea of eventually going to build towards Flashpoint, would have been so much more effective if at the end of season 1 he decides to go ahead and go through with it and create Flashpoint, and then at the end of season 2 he evolves as a character and realizes, I need to set this right.
Which is the point of Flashpoint Paradox.
I need to they did it in reverse, which was so awkward. He made the right move and then lost another parent after he had just come to peace with losing his mom. And
by the way, completely destroys any impact the Kevin Smith episode had. Because that whole thing was about finding peace
about his mom and being able to move on. And then what they did was make it so that episode is completely out of place and shouldn't have even been there. You know what? My boss also made a good point too.
That's why they're the boss.
So he said basically his thing that he would have changed is they just established he came to peace with his mom's death. The ending of season 1 is him realizing this would be selfish and wrong to do this, so I have to let my mother die for the greater good. Why didn't he go back and save his dad?
Yeah.
Because then there is no paradox. Well, there would be, but not as much as a game changer, of the entire show, everyone getting fucked over.
Yeah.
And then, it was just really, I don't like seeing the Flash when Barry, you were talking about earlier, is a scientist. He's such a good dude. He's so smart. Be an idiot, selfish, just prick about it, kind of.
Yeah. I don't even know.
The biggest shame is, I was saying, we should be so excited right now
to get a live action Flashpoint Paradox
by them. That you know
what the shame of it is? If that is what they're doing, and we do get another speedster villain, the DC universe is probably going to do a better Flashpoint Paradox than the show.
I was more excited by the Flashpoint teases in BVS than I was by this.
Yeah.
Part of it is because of expectations. I expect much better out of this show.
One of the most beautiful moments that also fucks over Kevin Smith was when he decides that, how selfish it would be and how he can't misuse his powers for selfish gain and all that, and he has to let his mother die. What was the point in all that now? All that was completely cheapened.
They have erased 2 seasons worth of shit that happened.
Yeah.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Because the character development is completely bad. He's you can't even explain what they've done. Now, okay, this is the next question too. I want to know how long Flashpoint is a thing in season 3.
Yeah.
No, see the CW. We've talked about this, and it just happened with Flash in season 2. They are notorious about setting up all of this shit, and then it gets scraped, by and wrapped up so unsatisfyingly, really quickly at the beginning of the next season. Like how you and Philip got really pissed about the beginning of season 2.
Yeah,
I kind of gave the benefit of the doubt because I was so expecting it from this network.
Yeah,
but like now, if all of this happens, and after I just got really upset about how the Crisis thing was used, where he runs himself to death.
You think they're gonna do it for like 3 episodes?
If we get Flashpoint for like 2 or 3 episodes, and they're gonna have to be like some of the best work they've done on that show for me to not be really pissed off.
I was really hoping they'd be smart and use like Mirror Master for season 3, but there's no way. If they do use him at all, it's gonna be a 1, maybe 2 episode thing.
And what sucks is like they could have done. We've always talked about like kind of like our geek hypothetical. How we go about doing the show is like, man, just pick someone else whose power isn't running faster than Barry. It's like I don't think that's too much to ask. I really don't.
I mean, all the Freddy Krueger shit that you could do with Mirror Master could be amazing.
So many different.
Then, one of the things that made Captain Cold so amazing was the fact that he had no powers at all, and he beat Barry Allen almost every time he faced him. Because, just like in chemistry, in real life, cold saps energy away from things. It slows things down. It slows molecules down. It made sense that using ice and
it's like
cold
kryptonite for the Flash.
Yeah, it would affect him. And he didn't even have any powers, and he beat him almost every time. And when he knew that he couldn't beat him, he made a fucking train wreck that Barry had to go save people off the train because he knew he'd be the hero, and he still got away even though he technically lost. He won. So that guy didn't even have any powers. So why can't you use Mirror Master for your season-long villain and do some crazy-ass shit with him?
What was the character you also plugged for part of the storyline?
The Folding Man.
Folding Man, great idea. I threw in the Shade.
Yes. If you did Shade, I forgot about Shade.
You could do an entire awesome, badass, different season. Mirror Master's the main bad guy, and his like 2 underlings are the Folding Man
and Shade. Barry can't run if he can't see where the fuck he's going.
And what sucks so bad is this came on the heels of that Legends finale, which I love so much, which had a satisfying closure to the season that was.
It hurt Flash so much more because we just watched Legends.
On the heels of right before Legends was the Shield one, which made us cry. So you go from like
you said, the best X-Men movie we'll ever get.
You get Shield made us cry. Legends had a satisfying closure and beginning.
Yeah,
and it was a perfect cliffhanger and a perfect wrap up, and just good all around. And then the Flash, guys, how did you fuck up the Flash? And then we appear to be in the minority. A lot of people are this is still in the mid 9.3-ish, 9.5 on IMDb.
When I initially looked at it when it was over, it only had 200 votes, and it was a perfect 10. On IMDb. I have never seen a perfect 10 on IMDb, and that was not what I would have picked.
Our buddy, we always reference Philip. He said it was so good, I loved it. I love the twists and turns and shit like that. And I was just like,
what twists and turns, though? I love you, Phil, but I'm sorry. That was one of the worst Flash episodes they've had, if not the worst.
I think the worst was where they were chillaxing in Star Labs with Zoom. I think that was still the worst for me.
That was one of the worst moments, but there was some cool scenes to that episode. But the worst overall episode, I think this one may be topping it. I don't know.
There was that one in season 1, the first time we actually talked about having a bad episode, where it was the Captain Cold and Heatwave episode, where it was you were talking about pun after pun after pun after pun.
It was so punny, and they weren't even good puns. They weren't even as good as my puns. And my puns are fucking awful.
And it was a big letdown because it was the first time you got to see Captain Cold and Heatwave together, be the big bads together. Yeah, it was lame. That's up.
Yeah, because the episode before was when they just alluded to Heatwave, and then that was the first time you actually saw them together.
Yeah, it's just a bummer. We should. I'm okay. The Flash for season 3, I'm still looking forward to it, but man, they're walking a fine line.
They're walking a fine line. Here's the thing. All the shit that we have given this season, if it had been the first season, I think our opinions, we would still have problems with it. I don't think we'd be as harsh. But we're harsh out of love. We're harsh out of love because they took a character who, let's boil it down, his superpower is he runs really fast. And we're able to write the shit that they wrote with it. And hell, they had episodes. That episode when he had no powers was a great episode. I actually really liked that episode, especially with the way it started, with it showed his routine as the Flash, and then it showed his routine now. Like
genius.
It was, like they've done some really clever character things that don't even involve their powers. But I'm really getting tired of him solving every problem by running either clockwise or counterclockwise. And it worked with the tornado. It worked with King Shark. I get all that. But
it's like it was like the 4th or 5th time it's been
when
done.
you start running around the event horizon on a black hole, which light itself can't even escape, and you're running around a machine that it should really technically have no effect on because it's just a machine sitting stationary on the ground. Like, come on. There's a certain point. I love the Run Barry Run stuff, but their worst episodes, probably the finale excluded, are still watchable episodes. And the reason I think they frustrate us the most is because Flash Season 1 happened.
They set the bar so high.
So high that James Cameron couldn't even raise it anymore.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Kavanaugh owned it. I mean, fucking owned it. In both seasons, really.
Yeah, completely agree. And one of the reviews, it was either on Collider or Nerdist I read for the finale, because like for the most part, the general reaction was positive, and people were really liking the finale. But the people who were having to get into the nitty gritty of it were pretty critical of it for good reasons. But they said that the heroes of season 2 were Tom Cavanaugh and the Cisco actor.
Yeah.
They brought it all, I mean, Grant Gustin, too.
Oh, you guys again. That was one of my favorite Cisco lines when he sees the dead birds again.
Oh my god, I'm so glad to hear we're all about to die. Like, it's so brilliant. Like, they were so awesome. And we should quickly mention, if for whatever reason they are dumb enough to write Tom Cavanaugh out of this show, I think it will become half the show it used to be.
I don't think that they ever would, but season 3 is going to be interesting because we get to see the actual Earth 1 Harrison Wells, I'm sure. Because if he never became Flash, then Thawne never became Reverse Flash. So he never came back to replace Wells. So it would be our Earth 1 Wells.
If you want to get right down to it, what may confuse me, if they established that what he did erased season 1 Barry in that moment, then why the fuck wasn't season 2 Barry erased?
Yeah.
That was earlier in the same timeline.
Because now the only Barry that should exist is the kid standing out in the middle of the street wondering how the fuck he got out there.
Yeah, there are, it's hard to
But then you get into how the fuck did he get out there? So
yeah, it was still, it could have been better done.
But, then again, it is called Flashpoint Paradox, so...
Yeah, I don't know.
I know we've gone really long on this, but we've bashed it so much. I do want to end on some good stuff that we actually liked. And one of my favorite moments, just real quick to help close everything out, had to be at John Wesley Shipp's funeral. That speech that Joe gives.
It was very good. Although they lose points because one of my biggest... It was fucking raining at the goddamn funeral. Stop doing that.
You can ask my wife, dude. The moment they switched to it and it was raining, I started laughing. And she just kind of looked at me like, what the hell? And I was like, Jeff is losing his goddamn mind right now. I guarantee you.
I was about... If I knew you were watching it at the exact same time I was live, I was about to text you. They just lost a letter grade.
Yeah.
People in TV movies just like...
And it wasn't even convincing rain. It just looked like one or two shower heads above them.
Why is that a trope?
I don't know.
I just don't understand. But yeah, I could do an entire podcast on that one dumbass trope.
But That Joe actor, I don't care.
Jesse Martin, love him.
Yeah, I don't care what lines that you give him, because he even had a speech earlier in the season. I think he was giving to Barry. That the look on his face is kind of like, why am I saying these words? But it was still convincing. Like the way he can deliver his lines and his acting ability. He's like, everyone that talks about one of the biggest finds that show has is the way you worded it is Kavanaugh. I think one of the unspoken finds that
Jesse
show has
Martin.
is Jesse Martin, because everything that I don't care what lines you give him or what scene you have him acting in, he owns it also. Kavanaugh crushes it. I said he owns it. He crushes it, and then Jesse Martin just owns it, man. When they went to Earth 2, and he's a completely different version of his own character.
He was like the jazz singer.
Yeah,
it was so good.
And I bought it.
I also had an issue how they conveniently killed dude, they fucked over Earth 2 bad.
Yeah,
Every
they
person
did.
they ran across, other than Barry and Iris, are fucking dead.
Yeah.
Like, every last one of them, and it was so unnecessary to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have a highlight you wanted to bring to light?
I actually liked the callback to the hologram. That got me. I wasn't expecting the hologram, actually.
Yeah.
Like, because that was done, it was done before, but it was done a few episodes previously where it kind of like fallen out of memory.
Very out of character for this season to do a callback.
I liked that. The one character who was consistent the entire time and never pissed me off was Wally. I was like, thank you, Wally. Someone actually has when he's like, another good quote, I'm going to go save your dad. No, you're going to go save our dad. That was cool.
Yeah.
Like, thank God someone wants to fucking save Joe. I'm glad someone on this show wants to save Joe. I loved him. I thought they did a really, really poor job initially making Wally unlikable. I still don't get why, but I'm glad they fix it eventually.
I feel like because the way TV works and the way that they crank out the episodes, that we finally got to the episode where they started seeing the backlash on Wally and started changing the way they did it.
And it's just like, of all people to make an asshole, the guy who's been the Flash almost as long as Barry Allen, that is such a good way to piss people off. Ugh. That I like.
By the way, stroke of genius, having the West family being black, and now we've got Wally being black. Because right now, one thing people are up in arms about are getting women into the spotlight of things and minorities into the spotlight of things. And that was one thing that I actually thought was really clever.
I completely agree. I completely agree.
If you're going to ride the ratings train of having women or minorities in the forefront of things, that was a genius move. And that was set up in season 1.
Yeah, it was. I really, really like what they did with Wally. They come between like the where he black sirens in mid speech and he whoops her ass with his car, badass.
Yeah,
kill me if you want to live moment type of thing.
Yeah,
and I really liked how he was like the one driving force. Where every time Wally opened his mouth in the finale, I was like, oh, they had the scene at the funeral. At the wake, he goes to after it was at the beginning of the episode, I think, where he goes to Barry. He has that heartfelt talk with him. Like, I really, really liked how they turned Wally around.
What's ironic, real quick, before you get too far away from it, that same episode with Black Siren started out with Wally being an idiot again, and then all of a sudden it changed into, I actually kind of like Wally out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Because it started out with him going after like purse snatchers and shit. I'm like, really? Really? Is this what we're going to do?
And then he does the car thing and completely redeemed himself.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I'm glad they finally decided to make Wally not an asshole. That was nice.
Yeah.
Teddy Sears was fantastic the whole time. Big fan of Teddy Sears going forward for other stuff. I might actually watch 20 Fan 4 Stick because he's one of the leads. Let's see. I was actually, just as a fan of television, I thought it was so cool how they made it to where John Wesley Shipp got to be the Flash again, and he was fucking Jay Garrick. Like, I wish they had worked it in to be more consequential to the plot, but that as a concept of an idea was great.
Well, the thing that upset me about that concept is the race was in that little loop thing, you know? I expect, you know how earlier in the episode we had that fight scene that's kind of all over the city, and the way that they went about not rehashing that was, the way they did that with Reverse Flash in season 1 was they zip everywhere and then Barry lands face down, and then that's when they're standing there talking or whatever, and you never actually got to see the action. Mm-hmm. A lot of the cool shit that they did was zoom. Remember after he broke Barry's back and he's dragging him by like either the scruff of his neck or like the back of his head or something, and you actually got to follow along with them as instead of them being blurred, the background being blurred.
Yeah.
And he's dragging him all over the city. That blew my goddamn mind. And that's when I bought into having another speedster villain for a short time. And then in this finale, they did that again with them fighting. Whereas they're kind of in the foreground and everything around them is blurring instead of the other way around. I wanted that as the final fight to be Jay Garrick and Barry versus Zoom all over the city doing that shit. That's what I wanted. And when it started out that way, I was like, I'm fucking getting it. And no.
Yeah, no, you got a Mario Kart level. Sorry, bro.
I got Rainbow Road.
Yeah, you definitely got Rainbow Road. But yeah, still great moments throughout the season. It was a curse of season 2. A lot of shows fuck up during season 2.
You know, like we said, a lot of the high points were high, a lot of the low points were low. Overall, not the worst season of anything that I've ever seen.
Oh, definitely not.
Like I said, I judge it as harshly as I do because I know they can do better because I saw season 1. That is the thing that upset me, I think, more than anything.
The last thing I wanted to do was every year we do our rankings around December and January. We were able to do our rankings basically based on the first half of the seasons, and Legends hadn't happened yet. I had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as an honorable mention, and I had Flash at number 3, and we hadn't watched Legends yet. You had, I believe, Flash at number 4, and did you have S.H.I.E.L.D. as an honorable mention as well?
I honestly don't remember.
Where would you rank them after you saw everything in its entirety for this last season? How do you rank them? Out of those 3.
We had the thing just to keep it limited because of airtime and stuff that we have, that we had the top 5 plus 2 honorable mentions. It'd probably be my second honorable mention. It'd probably just barely be on the radar.
Retroactively? Because I'm talking,
if we're doing...
I'm talking about, back then. I'm curious what you had at the midpoint.
It would probably be my number 1 honorable mention, and I'd probably bump Walking Dead down to second honorable mention.
Oh yeah. I'm just talking about the.
But
right now, after you saw these, the whole season of S.H.I.E.L.D., Legends, and The Flash, how would you rank them as far as against each other?
S.H.I.E.L.D., I think, would hit my number 1.
I agree. I would have S.H.I.E.L.D. number 1. Which is fucking batshit to say.
I know, especially when we started this podcast, we were just constantly, what the fuck, S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Well, actually, we were always doing this when they were actually solid in season 2. It was back retroactively when we were watching throughout season 1 when it was a problem. Yeah.
It's just, yeah. But yeah, I would definitely have that as my number 1. Dude, I don't know. On the fly, without having to sit down and think about it.
To me, it's clearly Legends above Legends season 1. To me, is clearly better than Flash season 2.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm just talking about this season. You're comparing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at the moment to Flash and Legends at the moment, all right now. I have them S.H.I.E.L.D. 1, Legends 2, and then Flash. At the bottom.
Of those 3 shows, that's definitely how I would rank them.
Because, like, the Legends thing, like... Now, first of all, I would like to say, I think Flash Season 1 is probably the best season that network will ever have. Yes. It was so airtight and awesome.
Airtight?
Just, like... Scripts meticulously done, acting brilliant, Kavanaugh crushing it. It was like perfect every way. Have no issues at all. Basically, the entire season outside of that one episode. Like
he was the fucking park ranger in Yogi Bear, and he was one of the most menacing enemies I've ever seen on TV.
So, and I just thought it was so funny retroactively looking back at it because you remember at the midway point, you were really critical on Flash. And I was like still kind of giving the benefit of the doubt. And then as soon as they started doing that Wally West stuff, it was just like you guys are really fucking with me right now. Yeah. And then the second half of the season, kind of flip flopped almost. And I just thought it was so odd that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is where it's at right now in the pantheon. Yeah, it's just so strange.
The one place it shouldn't be if you got season 1, the first half of season 1.
Yeah, but we've gone so far off topic and all over.
We said we could do an entire podcast of just Flash. We did.
What I think we might do is actually make this a separate one.
I think so too.
I think we just need to because we talked about Legends, about how awesome it was for 30 minutes, and then spent an hour crucifying the fuck out of Flash.
But like you said, it's out of love because we know they can do better.
Yeah, and here's hoping they're adding Supergirl, but at least they have an established group of writers, which they will at least take over most of the writing teams. I'm hoping now that they're done adding, they can all settle in, cancel Arrow, and then have everyone actually, make consistently good shows without having to worry about pimping out other shit.
Yeah.
Because, like, as we got Flash Season 1. Arrow went from amazing to utter dog shit. We got Legends. Legends was good. Flash Season 2 was very hit and miss compared to how awesome it was the previous season. So what I don't want to see happen, I don't want Supergirl to come in, and then Legends takes a hit, and Flash takes another hit, and we already don't watch Arrow, so fuck that show. So, yeah. If you'd like to check us out more, were there any other thoughts you had?
Nope. I think that pretty much wraps it up.
It sounds like we fucking loathe the show, but it's
this hour-long podcast sums up our thoughts.
Fuck the Flash. Fuck Grant Gustin. Fuck them all. Fuck you, Kreisberg. Fuck you, Berlanti. No, it is out of love. I would grade the first season of The Flash as like a 9.5 or a 9. I would grade season 2 as like a 7.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be about what I consider them. So if you'd like to check us out more, and I promise always we aren't always bitching about this as much as
to be fair, our name is There Will Be Extras.
Yeah, to be fair, we didn't bear the lead. If you'd like to check us out more, please like and subscribe. You get all of our Let's Plays, reaction shows, and commentaries galore, all on the channel. All of it goes through the YouTube. If you'd like to check out our social media links, we have in the description below our links for both Facebook and Twitter. If you know anyone else that might also like our podcast, we definitely appreciate the share. And with that, I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron.
And we will see you guys next time.
Like, are you fucking serious?
Barry